The 100th floor was now in front of him. God Jinwoo was ready to finish it. He was the #1 player in Battle of Summoners. It was old, brutal, and nearly forgotten. Only veteran players still remained. Inside the game, he was a legend. Players praised his records and impossible clears. Some could not believe how fast he was. Others joked it was better to serve him. But real life was another story. He had spent 10 years on games. He never even went to college. He still had no decent job. His parents said nothing, yet he knew. So this would be his last run. He would clear it and quit. He wanted to end God Jinwoo well. Messages kept popping up during the fight. Some still asked about the 99th floor. He had cleared that long ago. He ignored them and opened his summon window. Then he used White Whale, his ultimate skill. The battlefield exploded with light and force. Everyone watched in awe. One viewer noticed the timing. It would be exactly 10 years. Still, he kept pushing forward. Then the chat mentioned an announcement. Clear the 100th floor, and a new world opens. Some dismissed it as a joke. They doubted anyone would ever clear this floor. The dragon's fire came straight at him. He answered with Blue Dragon. Water and fire ripped through the battlefield. The viewers could only react in shock. Then they joked about something absurd. What if reality became the summoner's world? Then the final blast swallowed the battlefield. A message flashed across his phone. He had cleared the 100th floor. He threw his hands up and screamed. At last, he had done it. People on the street stared at him. He did not care at all. After 10 years, he finally won. Now he could quit the game. He even wanted to brag first. Then the sky suddenly changed. A giant game screen appeared above the city. It announced the 100th floor was cleared. Then another message appeared. The beta test was over. Red summoning scrolls began falling everywhere. People picked them up in confusion. A command appeared in the sky. It told everyone to tear the scrolls. Some thought it was just an event. He knew something was wrong. He shouted for them to stop, but he was already too late. The torn scroll exploded open. A new world was being created. Monsters started pouring into the city. The joke from before became real. The whole street fell into chaos. In that panic, a car hit him. He crashed onto the road. As he faded out, he cursed the game. His broken phone still glowed beside him. A new world was being created. When he opened his eyes again, 3 years had already passed. His mother called for a doctor. He was finally awake. What he saw shocked him. The world had truly changed. His father's pebble golem stood in the room. So it was never a dream. Now, even simple work uses summons. A news report filled in the rest. Korea was still struggling in the player league. The world was searching for God Jinwoo. Even the top rankers were waiting for him. Then Jinwoo finally understood. God Jinwoo was him. Then he noticed one more familiar name. Rachel was exactly who he remembered. She was one of the 5 emperors. That confirmed it even more. The game's world was truly real now. Then a blue window appeared before him. It asked if he wanted the tutorial. His parents told him to rest first. But Jinwoo shook his head. He said his body felt fine. He needed to adapt as fast as possible. He still had nothing in this new world. And he still lacked many answers. But one thing gave him confidence. This game was his field. When it came to the Battle of Summoners, he knew he could climb again. He believed he could reach the top. After that, Jinwoo was finally discharged. He returned home and started researching the world. He wanted to understand what had changed. Every article asked the same question. Where was Korea's god Jinwoo? Battle of Summoners was no longer just a game. Player battles had become real. Raids had become real. Dungeons had become real. Even the Tower of Trials became real. 3 years had passed since the accident. And people had already adapted. Living with summons now seemed normal. Still, Jinwoo stayed confident. He believed skill still mattered most, and he trusted his own abilities. So he decided to move forward. He accepted the tutorial. The system responded right away. The tutorial had started. Soon, Jinwoo arrived at a deserted place. That was exactly what he expected. There was no one around. He came outside for a reason. He still did not know what might appear. Then the system gave him a reward. 2 low-grade summoning scrolls. It also showed a warning. They were meant to be used outside. Holding the red scroll, everything felt real. But Jinwoo was still uneasy. Even for him, the first summon mattered. A bad start could ruin everything. And this game loved terrible luck. Low-grade scrolls had awful pull rates. F rank had 94%. E rank had 5%. D rank had only 1%. That meant useful summons were very rare. Jinwoo lowered his expectations. He would gladly take even an E rank. A D rank would already be amazing. Still, he prayed for something useful. Then he tore the scroll open. The system confirmed its use. For a moment, nothing happened. Jinwoo could only stare at it. Then one thought crossed his mind. How did summons even come out? The answer came immediately. Blue energy burst from the torn scroll. Lightning exploded into the air. And Jinwoo jumped back in shock. Then the result finally appeared. Golden light gathered around the torn scroll. A new system message appeared. Baek Jinwoo had obtained a summon. It was a wind fairy. And its rank was EX. The tiny fairy simply yawned. Jinwoo froze immediately. An EX rank summon existed? The little fairy slowly woke up. Then she suddenly panicked. She looked straight at Jinwoo. And she actually spoke. That alone shocked him. But then Jinwoo looked closer. He asked one careful question. Was she Ramba by any chance? The fairy denied it at first. She said she was a wind fairy. Then she suddenly stopped. Only one person had called her that. God Jinwoo. Her face turned red instantly. She asked if he was really God Jinwoo. A second later, she flew at him crying. She clung to his face in excitement. She said she had missed him badly. That was when Jinwoo remembered her. Back then, she was called E rank. But her hidden value was absurd. Raised properly, she gave amazing results. Her specialty was attack speed support. He had used her during his beginner days. That was why he named her Ramba. But something still felt wrong. He remembered her being removed early on. A big patch had wiped her out. That had made him furious back then. So why was she here now? Jinwoo quickly checked her information. The answer was even stranger. Her rank was listed as EX. But it also said isolated. She was isolated for balance-breaking effects. Her skill boosted one summon's attack speed. Each staff swing added 3%. Then Ramba finally explained herself. She said she was dragged away suddenly. After that, she was trapped somewhere strange. She could not leave at all. Now she begged him not to part again. Jinwoo had to stop her first. Jinwoo quickly asked who trapped her, but Ramba suddenly hesitated. Then she grabbed her head in pain. She said it hurt badly, and she could not remember clearly. Someone had placed a restriction on her. After calming down, she apologized. She said she could not explain much. She and others had been isolated. No matter how hard players tried, they could never be summoned out. That made Jinwoo stop. He asked about the others. Ramba said there were more like her. They were kept in separate places, so she never saw them directly. Still, she guessed there were around 10. That number hit Jinwoo immediately. He remembered 10 vanished summons. Those summons were labeled as bugged. Then they disappeared from the game. Now his suspicion grew stronger. Maybe those missing summons were all EX rank. Maybe they were all isolated too. Ramba then revealed one more clue. When he tears a summoning scroll, they get a chance to answer. And only his torn scrolls seemed to work. That made Jinwoo think again. Maybe this was his reward for clearing the final floor. At first, he believed something huge. Maybe every low-grade scroll he used would now pull an EX rank summon. So he tore the second scroll. Blue light burst out again. For a moment, he expected another miracle. But this time, the result was different. A hairy gorilla appeared, and it was only F rank. That answer ruined his first theory. Not every pull would become EX rank. The special summons were still random. Jinwoo cursed the game's awful rates again. Then he changed his thinking. He simply needed more scrolls. The more he pulled, the better his chances became. If he could gather all the EX ranks, he might become even stronger than before. After that, he called Ramba over. She answered him happily, but Jinwoo corrected her at once. He told her to stop saying God Jinu. From now on, she should call him Jinwoo, because that old name had already spread worldwide. Jinwoo stayed cautious the whole time. His old knowledge was still valuable, but 3 lost years worried him. That gap could still hurt him. And if people learned the truth, things would get even worse. If the world discovered his EX ranks, he could become a target. Then something suddenly changed. A new reaction spread through the air. Jinwoo, Ramba, and the gorilla all froze. Even the gorilla shouted in surprise. The system moved to the next step. A beginner dungeon was created instantly. Jinwoo could only stare at it. He had cleared countless dungeons before, but this was different now. This was not just a game anymore. It was real. So he forced himself to stay calm. He admitted he was scared. Still, he would not fight directly. And this was only a tutorial. The system called his name again. Then it gave one clear order. Please enter. Jinwoo looked at the portal. He knew what he had to do. He had to adapt to this new reality. The moment he stepped inside, everything changed at once. He found himself inside a dark cave. Jinwoo realized the dungeon had started. The place felt cold and unsettling. Then the system confirmed it. He had entered the beginner dungeon. Jinwoo knew it was finally beginning. A new rule appeared before him. Dungeons had to be cleared with summons, and one team could hold 5 summons. Then the system asked him something. Would he assign his 2 summons to the team? Normally, filling all 5 slots was safer, but Jinwoo thought differently. With the right strategy, 2 summons could still be enough. He had tested this kind of setup endlessly. The plan was already in his head, so he chose yes without hesitation. At once, the fairy and gorilla were assigned. Jinwoo started checking the situation. He tried to predict the first monster. Then a growl echoed through the cave. A warning window appeared immediately. A starving gray wolf was nearby. The mission was simple. Defeat the wolf, then escape the cave. Jinwoo stared forward in silence. It was only an F-rank gray wolf. A golden shield formed around Jinwoo at once. The system protected the player perfectly. But this was no longer just a game. A red warning flashed before his eyes. Without that shield, one hit meant death. If he failed here, he would really die. The wolf crept closer with killing intent. Jinwoo ordered Harry to attack first. Harry rushed in without hesitation. But the wolf reacted much faster. Jinwoo had already expected that. He called Ramba for support. Ramba spun her staff with full force. A green wind wrapped around Harry. His speed rose sharply in an instant. Harry charged again with boosted power. Jinwoo nodded. That was exactly the plan. Still, the real wolf looked much bigger. He stayed careful and watched for surprises. Then the wolf slammed Harry to the ground. Jinwoo immediately called for Ramba again. She pushed her buff as hard as possible. Harry's fist struck the wolf cleanly. The beast was blown back across the cave. Ramba prepared one final attack. With her support, Harry launched upward. Then he crashed down with a heavy combo. The fight finally swung in their favor. The dust finally began to settle. Jinwoo and Ramba looked ahead in silence. The gray wolf was defeated. Harry roared and pounded his chest. Ramba cheered that they had won. A clear message appeared before Jinwoo. The dungeon was finally cleared. He received 2 low-grade rune of strength. Jinwoo let out a long breath. He had survived. Then the scene shifted to the city. A cheerful voice said goodbye. Elsewhere, Ajin counted her cash happily. She had earned 200,000 won today. She was Baek Ajin, Jinwoo's younger sister. 3 years ago, the world changed. She got a new job too. She became a rune farming player. She entered lower-level dungeons for profit. Then she sold runes to promising players. After Jinwoo's accident, their family struggled badly. So Ajin chose to become a player. One day, she found an intermediate summoning scroll. Its drop rate was only 1%. From it, she gained a C-rank summon. Thanks to that shadow elf, she could earn money steadily. As she packed her things, her phone suddenly rang. It was a call from Jinwoo. Ajin quickly answered the call. She asked if he was discharged. Jinwoo said he was already out. Then he asked about her rune hawking. His sister snapped at the phrase rune hawker. So Jinwoo quickly corrected himself. Then he asked about the synthesis shop. She said it was inside the player zone. When the towers appeared, players needed a place for summon business. That was how the player zone was created. Dungeons and support facilities gathered around the towers. In Korea, only 2 trial towers existed. So the player zone existed only there. Jinwoo said that made sense. Then she asked about his summons. He casually answered, E and F. Her eyes lit up at once. An E rank had only a 5% chance. Jinwoo played along and called himself lucky. But inside he knew he was lying. Then he asked for her help. He wanted to learn this new system fast. He even offered her pocket money later. She mocked him for saying that. Jinwoo joked he might become the best player. His sister did not believe him. She said true geniuses always stayed at the top. People like Rachel and Xenos were different. They were chosen ones. Jinwoo only smiled at that. Then he stood up. He told her to show him around. He wanted to see the player zone himself. Night had already fallen over the tower district. As they walked, his sister asked about his summon. Jinwoo answered with a wind fairy. She frowned at the strange name. She had never heard of it before. Then she asked to see it herself. Jinwoo refused right away. She complained that showing it changed nothing. So Jinwoo made a trade. He asked to see her summon first. She smiled and agreed at once. Her confidence made him curious. Then she called out her summon. A shadow elf appeared before them. It was a C-rank summon. Jinwoo only gave a dry reaction. His sister got mad immediately. She said C-rank and above was noble tier. Jinwoo pretended to understand, but inside he was not impressed. To him, C-ranks were just synthesis materials. Then he greeted the shadow elf. He even asked if shadow elves knew Korean. The elf only stared in silence. His sister looked at him like he was weird. Jinwoo said he was just being polite. He wanted her summon to protect his sister. She scoffed and said summons could not talk. That answer made Jinwoo freeze. He suddenly remembered Ramba speaking before. So one thought hit him hard. Ramba had talked when they first met. His sister looked at him like he was crazy. She said summons were never meant to talk. That made Jinwoo stop and think. Ramba had been a special case. Then his sister asked to see his summon. Jinwoo turned away and said, "Later." She complained that he broke the deal. But Jinwoo stayed careful and kept moving. He could not reveal too much yet. So he urged her to guide him instead. Grumbling, she ran after him. Soon they entered the player zone. Bright lights filled the whole street. Jinwoo could only stare in shock. It looked nothing like Jamsil World. His sister said the place was rebuilt. No one wanted fun beside that dark tower. Jinwoo thought that sounded backwards. Wouldn't that make it more thrilling? His sister shut that down immediately. Dungeons sat right in the middle here. Who would come play in a place like that? After hearing that, Jinwoo gave in. I guess that is true. Dungeons were scary, but this place still thrilled him. Seeing game locations in real life felt exhilarating. Then he noticed the marketplace nearby. His sister said players traded scrolls and runes there. That scene made Jinwoo feel nostalgic. He remembered opening scrolls and runes with Baekjeon. His sister pointed him toward the pamphlets and help desk. Then she told him to try the academy first. She said he was still a beginner. But Jinwoo calmly refused. He said there was nothing left to learn. He would be leveling here from now on. His sister still looked worried. Jinwoo thanked her for the guide. Then he told her to head back first. He wanted to look around alone. Even after that, she felt something was wrong. Still, she chose to trust him. She warned him not to overdo it. After she left, Jinwoo checked the area. Once it seemed empty, he called for Ramba. The fairy appeared in a burst of light. She almost shouted his name out loud. Jinwoo quickly shushed her. He quickly covered Ramba's mouth and kept her quiet. He warned her not to talk outside anymore. If people noticed her, trouble would follow. From now on, she could only speak in dungeons. Ramba nervously nodded and agreed. Then Jinwoo took a breath and gathered himself. First, he needed money to start clearing dungeons. But his account was almost completely empty. He could only let out a bitter laugh. His situation felt worse than ever. Going back to part-time work would waste time. But asking his parents was never an option. They were already working several jobs to survive. He could not lean on them anymore. Doing that would make him feel ashamed. So he made up his mind. Even if he had to start from nothing, he would still find a way forward. That was what made God Jinwoo different. He rose as a true free player. The game was brutally pay to win. Baekjeon spent 300 million won. But Jinwoo grew without spending a coin. So reality would not stop him now. He swore he would climb back again. Then his phone suddenly lit up. 500,000 won had been deposited. He froze and checked the sender. It was from his mother. Ajin had told her he was pushing himself. She knew he would never ask for money. So she sent him what she could. Jinwoo was left speechless. He remembered her nursing him the whole time. She had stayed by his hospital bed. She only wanted him healthy again. Jinwoo quietly thanked his mother. Then he made a promise. He would succeed no matter what. He would let his whole family live well. 3 lost years had to be reclaimed. Every minute now was precious. To grow, he needed dungeon materials. To get them, he needed a team first. So he bought 3 low-grade summoning scrolls. An F-rank sludge appeared. An F-rank horned butterfly followed. Then an E-rank poison lizard appeared. Jinwoo stared at the poison lizard in surprise. Getting an E-rank felt like real luck. If Ramba counted as E-rank too, then he had beaten the odds twice. The poison lizard looked useful enough. Its value was not bad at all. The sludge looked awful in comparison. Still, he decided to use it for now. For the moment, this team would work. Harry stood in front with the others. Now the system felt very simple. Pull summons and equip the right runes. Then fight, level up, and keep farming. That was the whole growth cycle. To Jinwoo, that kind of grinding was easy. And if he gathered all 10 EX rank summons, even top players would not matter. Even the 100th floor would be beatable. So he made his next goal clear. He would find every remaining EX rank summon.